Welcome back to Carl Perez, MMA. I'm Carl Perez. I'm with the Soul Snatcher, Mr. Dylan O'Sullivan. Dylan, we're only 4 days away from your contest, XFC 50, taking on Thomas Lane. How's training camp been? What is it like just finishing up and getting ready for the fight?
Man, training camp's been going great. When it gets closer, it becomes more fun to me because you get more dialed in, you get more focused. Your diet changes, which I feel like when my diet changes, it really reminds me that what is ahead, and it helps me stay more focused. And training's been going good though. I have great training partners at Killcliff Fight Club. We have guys in every big promotion that you could think of. So I get looks of all kinds, from strikers, wrestlers, and everything in between. Jiu-jitsu, people that mix it up together well. So it's great to get that.
So how did you get your start in this crazy world of mixed martial arts and combat sports?
Man, so I have been in the game now for 13 years. I started when I was 16. That's when I started training. I'm now 29. And I never got in fights growing up as a kid. I was the guy who got along with everybody. I played every sport, though. And when someone beat me in a sport, I always wanted to fight him. I always had this something inside me. Like if you struck me out in baseball, I thought, man, I'll kick your ass. Like it was just something that was instilled inside of me. And I feel that a lot of people have that because we see it as people think they'll watch fights and they think they know how to fight. But it was just something I had inside of me. And my brother started a gym. And when he started the gym, he asked me if I would like to come in and start training with him. And I did. And I immediately fell in love with it. It was just everything I thought I would love, and I played every sport you could think of. And it was always team sports. When you're in a team sport, I love a team environment, but sometimes, someone gets blamed for losing the game or for doing that. I was in ninth grade and I went through the wrong gap when I was a linebacker, and the guy scored a touchdown. After that, I didn't get start for the rest of the season, and it was because I went through the wrong gap and I missed a tackle and we lost. Like it always made me upset when a quarterback throws a interception at the last bit and they lost the game, when it's like there's so much more of the game to it. So really having that individual experience of going in there and fighting, and when I win, it was up to me. When I lose, it was up to me. Obviously, I have a great team, and it takes a small army to get you prepared and as most efficiently ready as you can be. So you can't do this sport alone. It is a team sport, but when you actually go compete, the accountability is easy to put on yourself because you're the one in there.
You just mentioned that you've been at this sport for 13 years. A lot of people in 2024 watch mixed martial arts. Kids are starting to compete at it at a very young age. They're starting to train at 7 or 8. 15, 20 years ago wasn't the case. This is very recently starting to get culturally accepted. Now, when you first started in 13, 15 years ago, do you have any crazy, maybe fighting horror stories of your first couple fights, maybe mystery opponents, unsafe fighting conditions, bad medicals?
Yeah, I mean, just that, name those few things. I've had all sorts of those things happen. And my first fight, well, so I fought a boxing fight first, and it was, old school in a gym. You don't really know who you're going against. Boxing is a whole nother world, especially in the amateur level. Which that was cool because it was like I didn't know who I was fighting until I walked up to the ring to get in the ring. But then I did kickboxing and against another guy named Dylan, actually. And I was 17 at that time. And we're wrapping up. I was the first fight of the night. We're wrapping up my hand, and we have one hand wrapped. And the guy comes in and he said, "We got 5 minutes." And my brother looks at him and he's like, "No, we don't. I only have one of his hands wrapped. We need to warm him up." And it was like immediately it put me into the heat of realizing that, it's entertainment and they're putting you in there when they need you out there to fight. And sometimes the preparation can be chaotic in the back, but that taught me that. And then when I went to my first MMA fight, my opponent, the weight was 170 pounds, and my opponent came in at 188.8. 18.8 pounds overweight. And his coach comes up to me and he's like, "Do you still want to fight?" And it was my first fight. So of course I still want to fight. And I mean, I looked at the guy and it wasn't like he had 18 pounds of pure muscle on him. I wasn't scared of that. So I thought it was pretty wild, though. For my very first MMA fight, the opponent was almost 20 pounds more than me at weigh-ins, and I still went in there and I knocked him out in the first round.
Your style is a very striking, heavy style. I mean, you have a lot of power. You have a lot of finishes on your resume. Do you take a lot of pride in going in there and getting that finish?
Oh, 100%. That's what, if anyone ever asks me what my style is, I say it's a finishing style. It's the soul snatching style. I come in there to give the fans what they want to see. Like, it's entertainment. Nobody comes to see these guys lay on each other, and nobody wants to see that. Nobody does. I've never had anyone tell me, "Oh, I can't wait to see you just lay on them and grapple them." No, heck no. I come in there to knock people out because that's what I am gifted at as well. And I feel like I am good at finding my range and looking for the finish. And moving forward, I know the UFC, I know PFL, Bellator, One Championship, all these bigger promotions, they're looking for guys that have style and want to finish the fight. They're not looking for these guys who win their decisions. Like Bilal Muhammad, he's a great fighter, phenomenal. He's up there at the top, about to get his title shot, but everybody gives him lots of talk because he has 18 decisions in his 23 wins or something like that. I'm not sure on the numbers exactly, but I know a lot of his wins are decisions, which is just boring to watch.
So now talk about the fight, XFC 50, fighting on Friday against Thomas Lane, another undefeated fighter of his pro career. What do you think of him as an opponent?
I think it's a great opponent for me. He is very, very. I know he trains with Chris Weidman, and he trains with a good group at Jimmo as well, I believe, which is I fought somebody from that team before, and he's very, very good at wrestling. I know this. He went to college to wrestle, and I watched his 3 fights, and honestly, they bored me to death watching him just hold these guys down, and he couldn't find a finish. He didn't really cause much damage to them. I didn't see much blood. I didn't see much anything happen. Of course, his last fight was, I believe, a year ago or a little over a year ago. So I'm sure he's made improvements, and I'm sure he's looking to do different things when he comes into this fight. But I'm expecting him to want to take me down, to want to lay on me. But he's got to get me there first. That's the key. He's got to get past my hands. He's got to get past my kicks. He's got to get past my knees and my elbows, which good luck to him. He can do his best shot to get past him, but I have faith in myself to be able to find my target and hit the shot that I need to hit, and then the night will be over. It'll be all fun and games from then.
Who are some guys over at Kill Cliff that you've been training with to maybe emulate that wrestling style that you expect?
I wouldn't necessarily pinpoint it to a specific guy because there's so many people in the team that are really good. But I would say everyone that's in the 170 to 185 and some of the even heavyweights, I go with them because I know it's hard for me to the size difference when a heavyweight's trying to hold me down. If I can get up from someone that's bigger than me holding me down, then I should be able to get up from someone around my same size. It's hard for me to list names just because there's so many and I don't like leaving anyone out. But I have 2 really good Japanese teammates that are southpaws that I've been working with. Takashi Sato, who is in the UFC, and Yusaku. I don't know Yusaku's last name, but he's in the UFC currently. Mickey Gall, Marc-Andre Barriou, Tyler Ray, Garrett Fosdick. The list goes on. It's tough for me to pinpoint and say specific names just because when a question like that, I guess I'm not prepared, and I don't want to leave anybody out.
In addition to yourself, one of your best friends is fighting on this card as well. Darian Abbey headlining it, looking for a huge win over Tim Johnson. What is it like to fight on a card with one of your buddies as well?
Oh, I mean, it's amazing. Darian is my dog. Like, me and him, we've rode out to a lot of his fights. I've cornered him for a lot of his fights, and we train together. He's one of the heavyweights that I like to work with because his striking, his athleticism, he's so agile. He's able to move like someone his size shouldn't be able to move. And to be able to get to be on the same card as him is it's going to be a memory in the making, that's for sure, because I'm going to go out there, I'm going to get the finish, and then he's going to be hyped up extra from that, and he's going to go out there and he's going to get the finish. And I highly, highly, highly believe that he's going to finish this guy pretty quick.
Now, when you look at this card as a whole, it looks like XFC, they're going through a rebirth, new ownership. They're trying to start it off in a big way. I mean, the card is pretty stacked. You have Tim Johnson, Hannah Goldie, Pearl Gonzalez, all former UFC guys on there. Emmanuel Sanchez, guy Bellator who had fought Pitbull twice, main eventing. What's it like to be on a regional card with this caliber?
To be honest, I am very excited to be on XFC because when I was, I believe, 1-0 or maybe it was 2-0, I have my promoter that I fought for in Tennessee. He has good connections with XFC, and he had actually been a commentator for them on their international shows, and they were such a huge promotion. And then I know that it went through, as every promotion can, it goes through their hiccups, their ups and their downs. And just like looking back at the shows that they had when they were always put together very well and very professionally. So it is an honor for me to get to fight for XFC on their 50th show, and I'm excited for it.
You feel like with a big win against Thomas Lane, could this maybe help propel you to the bigger shows and the big organizations?
I believe so. So I had a knee surgery a little over a year ago, and that's why I had been inactive for a little bit. I had to take care of that, and I believe with a big knockout over him, it's going to put me on the UFC's radar. It's going to put me on one championship radar, PFL, Bellator, all of these, because I am not tied to going to only the UFC. The UFC is the mainstream, and it is the biggest one of them, so I would love to fight for the UFC, and I've always said I will fight for the UFC. But I think a win in good style, 6-0, you got to remember too, my 5 finishes are all in the first round, so I look to do that, to continue the trend, be 6-0. I've told myself I'm gonna be 10-0 with 10 first round finishes, so it's just another step along my journey, and I am very excited to get this going in the right direction.
You just alluded to that you had an absence from competing. You haven't competed in mixed martial arts in a sanctioned bout, I believe, in almost 2 years. When you're
Yes,
dealing
sir.
with a layoff like that, what are some things you can do to maybe prevent ring rust?
So I had said earlier that I coach an amateur team, and I'm at fights. I'm more fights out of the month. More weekends out of the month. I am at fights than I am not. Usually, I get maybe one weekend off between cornering or a teammate or one of the people that I coach. So I feel like I don't feel like obviously I haven't got in there and had the light shining on me, and I haven't went to go perform and do all that myself, but I've been around fights this whole time during the layoff. I was going and cornering people. I walked that walk with them. Like I said, I know I wasn't getting in there, but it kept me very familiar with the feeling, and it kept me very familiar with the process of what it takes to prepare to get you to be your best when you're in there. So I don't feel like there was much rust.
Do you feel sometimes when some fighters say that maybe it's more of a mental thing than it actually is physical?
1,000%, because the fight game is very mental, and that's why you see so many people talk trash, this, that, and other, and that can help you or it can hurt you. But I believe that people are, oh yeah, you hadn't done it in a while, this, that, it's one of those things that people just like to say that, oh, you're not going to be the same, this, that, or the other. But I feel like I didn't miss a beat.
Since you've turned pro, obviously you're on a roll, 5-0 right now in mixed martial arts. What adjustment did you make from your amateur career? Do you think you have a new mindset right now?
Yeah. So well, first off, the towards the end of my amateur career is when I came down to Florida to visit to see if I could. I got invited to be able to. It was called Hard Knocks at the time. It was before Kill Cliff was even started. It was after the Black Zillions had broke up and Henry and Greg started their own little thing, and it bounced over a little bit. And then it was at Hard Knocks when I visited. And when I went there for 2 months, I realized that's where I needed to be, because my training as an amateur, I was training with all guys I was better than, and or bigger than it was. Just there wasn't a lot where I'm from. There's not a lot of people, so I'm not even going to say I was better than them because I don't like the way that sounded. They weren't going after the same goals as I was. They weren't as committed and dedicated to the sport as I was. So I realized I had to be more around more like-minded individuals and people that were going to raise that bar for me to have to reach higher and higher and higher. And so I went home and I sold my truck, sold a bunch of stuff that I had, worked for about 6 months and saved up money. And I only had, I think, $4,000 when I made the move to Florida, and I had maybe 2 months my rent already paid, and it was, sink or swim. And I'm still here down in Florida. And after I actually lost my last 2 amateur fights, but I knew that it was time for me to take the next step. I had 15 amateur fights. I believe on Tapology it only has 13 of them. Some of them were unsanctioned in Virginia. But I had a lot of experience, and I realized it was time for me to take the next step. And when I took the next step, it helped me elevate myself to hold up to that professional title.
I asked this question to Darian. I'll ask it to you. Being a mixed martial artist comes with a lot of sacrifices, especially when you're at the regional scene like you guys are. You're not making millions of dollars like a Conor McGregor, some big guys in the UFC. Some guys have to work a 40-hour job. They have kids to support. They have a wife. How do you get through that sacrifice, and what motivates you?
Man, I still have to make that sacrifice because I'm a carpenter myself, and I do side jobs for fixing stuff for people from the team, fixing stuff from people from that gym or the gym that I coach at. I've met plenty of people down here, and I find little jobs for me to do. I coach. I get paid to coach. The sacrifice is just you got to believe in yourself. There's 100 excuses for you to make, but you got to find that reason that's going to keep you pushing to keep moving forward. And moving to Florida was really a big thing that, kind of made me have to do that. I had to make sure to be able to afford to live down here. And thankfully, I have plenty of good sponsors that have also helped in my journey and supported me. So I would say the biggest sacrifice is just believing in yourself.
All right, Dylan, last question. In a perfect world, what goes down Friday night?
I knock him out in the first round, whether it be by punch, knee, elbow, kick. Doesn't really matter to me. It's going to be what he shows, he can pick his poison. Whatever he is going to end up showing me, he will get it delivered.
All right, Dylan. Thank you for talking to me today, my man. I wish you nothing but the best Friday night.
Hey, appreciate it, brother. You have a good evening or good rest of your day.